Okay, 3 more questions before we run out of time. Umar Abid asks an interesting question. I think there's a couple of answers to talk about here. Umar's trying to get a job as a 3D weapons modeler, which is pretty specific actually, but as a 3D weapons modeler. The job opportunities exist like that? And then he asks a second question we'll come to, talking about normal maps and UV maps, so there's a technical aspect to that question. But the first question, wants to be a weapons modeler, how does that work?
I would say those jobs do exist, but they're rarely advertised, as in you'll have a studio who will need a 3D modeler to work on weapons, but he'll be working on weapons for this particular project. Next project, it might be on trees. Next project, it could be on the entire environment. So yes, a project he works on might be 3D weapons, but it's unlikely to be advertised in that way.
I mean, there are certainly very specific animation jobs and art jobs.
In the UK
character modelling, for example, is very specific, and there are in all developers very good character modelers, and that's all they do. Weapons does sound a bit specific for most games, I mean, especially if the company you're working for isn't doing a game with weapons, for example. So I think you need a broader portfolio of work to really make yourself attractive to an employer.
So I think as well, if you're going to take on somebody to do this, they've got to have proved themselves in that area. If you've got a reputation, you're great, but it sounds like Umar is starting out and that's his interest. And the problem is, don't be so narrow, because you're only aiming for a small target then. And certainly when you're starting, you've got to have a bit more that you can offer and say, I've got these things, because they'll be offering you junior roles to start. If it's your first job, it's likely to be junior. And you're going to really specialise later on in your career.
Yeah, you will have to prove yourself.
It is the sort of thing that he might get employment with as outsourcing, where a particular studio needs to fill in some holes within their scheduling. But as you said, Pete, it's a bit specialist.
So, last question before we wind up. Very important question. England versus Algeria. Final score.
Oh, I think it'll be 3-0.
3-0.
I just don't think...
4-2 to Algeria, because let's face it, I do have Algeria in the sweepstake.
I know nothing about football.
2-1 to England.
I'm going 2-0. Thanks very much. That was the second of our webinars. We'll attempt to do these every couple of months, and we'll make sure that we get some really interesting panellists there. I'm sorry that we didn't get to answer all your questions. There was a whole lot of them. But we'll see you again in another couple of months.
Can I just mention some of the questions that we haven't got to answer at this time? We will be putting up on Students' World and on the website with answers to get round to those.
All right. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.